Hello class, today we're looking at rate of change word problems. So your essential question is, how do I write equations and solve word problems? Your learning intention, I'm learning to write and solve equations from word problems. Pause the video and do the two warm-up questions now. Write the equation of the line that connects these 2 points. So pause the video now, please. Well, I hope you tried to do these on your own. If you get the correct answer, you know you're doing it correctly. So first thing we have to do is to find the slope. We're going to work on the y equals mx plus b form. This is your slope-intercept form. So the first thing we have to do is find the slope. Your slope is the change in y over the change in x. Does it matter which point I start with? No. 3 minus 2 over negative 2 minus 0. This is 1 over negative 2. So I've got my slope. The other part of the equation I have to find is my b value. So pick one of the 2 points. I'm going to pick the second one because I know multiplying by 0 eliminates things. So my y value is 2. 2 is equal to negative 1 over 2 times 0 plus b. If I would have thought when x is 0, you find your y-intercept or your b value. So 2 is equal to b. I use my equation up here. Y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 2. And I'm done. Was that the answer you got when you tried on your own? If you didn't try on your own, pause now and try the second one. I hope you tried. The slope is negative 3 minus 4 over 0 minus a negative 5. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. 0 minus a negative 5 is 0 plus 5, which is 5. So my slope is 7 over 5. Now, do you remember what happened when x was 0 here? Well, we've got x is 0 here, so what is my b value? Negative 3 is the correct answer. Y is equal to negative 7 over 5 times x minus 3. And we're done. Okay, the idea behind word problems is you read through the word problem, you highlight what's important, set up an equation, and solve. If you don't understand it the first time you read, you might have to read through it 1 or 2 more times, or even more. But second time through, you want to highlight. Rod is paid an overtime rate of $25 per hour after his basic wage of $600 per week. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the total pay P if he works H hours of overtime. How much will he make if he works 7.5 hours of overtime? So this is a 2-part problem. First, you have to write the equation, and then you have to input 7.5 in the right position in that equation. So, Rod is paid an overtime rate of $25 per hour after his basic wage of $600 per week. We know that P is the total pay, and H is the number of hours. So our total pay is equal to, what does he start with? $600. To that he will add $25 for each hour that he works. Okay, now how much will he make if he works 7.5 hours of overtime? Does this go into the P or the H? It says hour. That means it will go into where we've got our H value. So P is equal to 600 plus 25 times 7.5. Okay, take a minute, pause the video, and put it into a calculator. What do you get? In my calculator, I get 787.5. Have I rounded correctly? No. This would be 0.50. When we're looking at money, we've got to go to the nearest hundredths, because $1 is 100 pennies. So, what does that mean? Rod will make $787.50 if he works 7.5 hours of overtime. I forgot the hours. Okay, so that one wasn't too bad. If you have any questions, back up the video and watch this section again. For the next one, an airplane 30,000 feet above the ground begins descending at a rate of 2,000 feet per minute. Assume the plane continues at the same rate of descent. Write an equation to represent the height of the plane in feet above the ground, which will be our function of x, in relationship to time in minutes. How many feet will it be at in 8 minutes? What will the altitude be in 8 minutes? Okay, important information. The airplane starts out at 30,000 feet above the ground, descending at 2,000 feet per minute. Descending means what? Adding or subtracting? It means we're going to subtract. Okay, so we're going to use f of x and x. We want to write an equation to show this, what's going on in this case. So my f of x, my function that is evaluated with x, is equal to, where do we start? Well, we start at 30,000 feet. Then we will subtract. What are we subtracting? 2,000 feet per minute. So that's where my x goes. How many feet will it be at in 8 minutes? So 8 becomes my what? My output or my input? It becomes my input. So my function, this time I'm going to evaluate it with 8, is equal to 30,000 minus 2,000 times 8. Okay, what is 2,000 times 8? 16,000. 30,000 minus 16,000. So my function when I put in 8 minutes as my time, will be 30,000 minus 16,000 leaves you with 14,000. What does it mean? After 8 minutes, the plane's altitude will be 14,000 feet. Okay, so any questions over the first two problems? Back it up and watch it again if you've got question marks. Okay, the next one is very, very incorrect in one way. A plumber now will probably make more than $50 to make a house call, and he'll probably charge you more than $25 an hour. My guess it would be $75 for the house call, and at least $35, if not $45 for labor. So, a plumber charges a fee of $50 to make a house call. He also charges $25 an hour for labor. Write an equation that you could use to find the amount a plumber charges for a house call based on the number of hours of labor. Let X represent the number of hours for labor and Y represent the total cost. So, a plumber charges a fee of $50. So he comes out to your house, you owe him $50. He also charges $25 an hour for labor. Y is equal to, what do we pay when he comes to the house? $50 plus $25 for each hour he's there. So your equation is 50 plus 25x. How much would you be charged for 6.5 hours of work? Is that my input or my output? That is my input. So I'm going to substitute it in for x. Okay. All together, put it into your calculator, take a minute, pause this video, put it in your calculator and figure out what the answer is. I hope you tried. So my total cost will be $212.5. Do I leave it at 0.5? No. It's 0.50 because it's 50 cents. So, what does this 212.50 mean? You will pay $212.50 for 6.5 hours of work. Okay. Howard decided to start jogging every day at the track. He completes the following chart for his first month, 4 weeks that he jogs every day. Use the table to write an equation to represent the numbers of laps, L. Howard runs if T is the time in weeks since he began jogging. How many laps will he jog in 10 weeks? So we've got our chart. We know that the laps is RL and T is the time. So how many laps will he jog in 10 weeks? That's going to be our input. So if we're looking at our number of laps It's equal to, well, number one, what is our slope? How do we determine slope from a table? My delta x, I add 1. My delta y, I add 1. So my slope will be 1 over 1, which gives me 1. I'm multiplying by 1. Do I need to put it in there? No. So we just put, this would actually be 1x, but we'll just put the x. Okay, when x is 0, what is my output? 4. So this becomes x plus 4. Y is equal to mx plus b. Now my input, my x value is going to be 10. So the number of laps will be equal to 10 plus 4, which is 14. What does it mean? In 10 weeks, Howard will run 14 laps. Okay, last problem. Suppose that the water level of a river is 34 feet and that it is rescinding at a rate of 0.5 foot per day. Write an equation for the water level at capital L after D days. In how many days will the water level be at 26 feet? Okay, the water level of the river is 34 feet and it is rescinding at a half a foot per day. Rescinding means what? Rescinding means we're going to subtract. We know that L is the water level and D is the number of days. So my water level is equal to, what's the level at day 1? 34 feet. I have to subtract because it is receding at 0.5 feet per day. Okay. Is 26 my input or my output? 26 feet is my output. So 26 is equal to 34 minus 0.5 D. Step 1. Subtract 34 from both sides. (26) minus 34 is -8. -8 is equal to negative 0.5 D. Okay. 0.5 is what fraction? It's the fraction 1/2. We don't divide by a fraction, we multiply by its reciprocal. So, what is the reciprocal of 1/2? 1 over 2, flip it over, becomes 2 over 1. So I'm going to multiply by -2 on both sides. Okay, -2 times 8 is positive 16, is equal to D. What does it mean? In 16 days, the water level will be 26 feet. Okay, how do you know you're successful? You know you're successful when you can write equations and solve word problems. So these are word problems.